All right, we are about to dive into some of the most powerful negotiation techniques you'll ever come across. And get this, they come straight from a former FBI hostage negotiator. So we're not talking about some dry theory from a textbook here. This is what actually works when lives are on the line.
Imagine getting that call. Chilling, right? Well, that's exactly what Chris Voss heard. But here's the twist. It wasn't a real kidnapper. Nope. He was in a high-stakes role-play against the top negotiation professors at Harvard Law School. And let me tell you, they thought they had him dead to rights. They were very, very wrong.
So where did all this come from? It's all laid out in his incredible book, Never Split the Difference. In it, Voss breaks down the exact system he perfected as the FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator. And we're not just talking about a few clever tricks. This is a totally different way of thinking about how we interact with each other.
And this whole thing sets up this amazing clash of ideas. It's like a showdown, right? In one corner, you've got Harvard, the world's most prestigious ivory tower academic institution. And in the other corner, you have the gritty, down-in-the-trenches, real-world experience of the FBI.
See, for years and years, the Harvard model, the famous Getting to Yes book, that was the gold standard. It's all about being logical, rational, separating the person from the problem. But here's what the FBI found out the hard way. When you're in a real crisis, when emotions are cranked up to 11, that cold, hard logic, it just breaks. It doesn't work. And that led to this huge shift in thinking. The person isn't separate from the problem. The person is the problem.
So, let's go back to that Harvard roleplay. Voss is facing down these brilliant professors. And what does he do? He doesn't argue. He doesn't make a counteroffer. He just asks this one simple question. And that one question completely threw them for a loop. Why? Because it puts the problem back in their lap. All of a sudden, they're the ones who have to figure out the how. They got bogged down in logistics instead of making threats. It was the perfect proof that the old rules just didn't apply anymore.
Okay, but why? Why do those old rational rules fail so badly in the real world? Well, the answer is fascinating, and it's buried deep inside our own brains. We have to thank the brilliant psychologist Daniel Kahneman for figuring this out.
So Kahneman found out that our brain is basically running on two different operating systems. You've got System 2, that's the slow, logical, deliberate part. It's the part we think is driving the car, but it's not. The real driver is System 1, what Voss calls our animal mind. This part is fast, it's emotional, it's all instinct. It's the one making all the snap decisions. Our logical brain? It just comes in afterward to clean up the mess and make up a good story for why we did what we did. So here's the secret. If you can learn to talk to the animal mind, you can pretty much steer the whole conversation.
And this is how you do it. This is how you speak to that animal mind. Voss calls it tactical empathy. Now hang on, this isn't about being all soft and fluffy or agreeing with the other person. Not at all. Think of it as a strategic weapon. It's about figuring out the why behind their feelings. Once you understand their worldview, you get this incredible window into their head, and that's when you can start to influence what they do next.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks. How do we actually do this stuff? The first tool is so simple it almost feels like cheating. Voss himself calls it the closest you'll get to a real-life Jedi mind trick. It's called mirroring. Seriously, this is so easy you're not going to believe it. Here's how it works. You just listen for the last 1, 2, maybe 3 important words the other person says, and then you repeat them back, but as a question, like you're curious. Then, and this is the most important part, you shut up. You just go silent. There's this deep-seated human need to explain and connect, and I'm telling you, they will start talking. They just can't help it, and they often end up revealing things they never meant to.
Want a real-world example? Check this out. The year is 1993. Voss is on the phone with a bank robber in Brooklyn. It's a super tense standoff. Hours are dragging on, and then the robber lets this little detail slip.
Now, most people would jump in with, "Who was your driver?" or "What do you mean?" right? Not Voss. He just mirrors him, and the effect, it was instantaneous. The robber got so flustered that he, and I'm quoting Voss here, he started to vomit information. He ended up confirming there was a second bad guy involved, someone the FBI had no idea about. All that just from repeating 3 little words. All right, on to the next tool in the toolkit, and believe me, it's just as powerful. This one is all about calling out the other person's emotions. You literally say what you think they're feeling out loud. It's called labeling.
Okay, picture this. A standoff in Harlem. Voss is on one side of a locked apartment door. On the other side, a bunch of armed fugitives. For 6 hours, he's just talking to a door. He can't see them, can't read their body language, but he can hear the fear in their voices. And that's what he targets. He starts naming their fears out loud, showing them he gets where they're coming from, without saying they're right.
So why on earth does this work? It's actually neuroscience, which is so cool. When you put a name to an emotion, you physically shift the activity in the brain. It moves from the amygdala, that's the lizard brain, the fight or flight center, over to the prefrontal cortex, the part that does the thinking. It's like you have to name it to tame it. The act of labeling of fear reduces its power.
And how you say it is everything. You don't say, "You're angry." That just puts people on the defensive. Instead, you soften it. You use these magic phrases. You're framing it as an observation, not a fact. It's not an accusation. This gives them space to either agree with you or even correct you, which is great either way, because now you're building a connection.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This is all fascinating stuff for hostage situations and bank robberies, but how does this help me? And that's the whole point of the book. Voss's biggest argument is that these tools work everywhere because your entire life is one negotiation after another. Think about it. Asking for a raise? That's a negotiation. Buying a car? Definitely a negotiation. Trying to get your kids to put on their pajamas and go to bed? Oh yeah, that is absolutely a negotiation. Every single one of these situations comes down to a simple, human, I want. And if you start using these tools, tactical empathy, mirroring, labeling, you can completely change how these everyday conversations play out.
And that really brings us to the most important takeaway here. It's a fundamental shift in how you think about all of this. A good negotiation isn't about winning an argument or beating the other person. It's not a fight. It's a process of discovery. Your only job is to learn as much as you possibly can, because information is what gives you the power to influence what happens.
And in the end, that's really the question this whole approach leaves you with. Because when you strip it all down, all these incredible tools, mirroring, labeling, tactical empathy, they're really just super-powered ways of listening. They force you to shut down that voice in your own head and truly, deeply focus on the other person. So let me just leave you with this. What could you learn if you finally stopped talking and really truly started listening?